This is what Bloomfield Center looks like now. This is a rendering of what it will look like in a couple of years when the long-awaited Bloomfield redevelopment finally comes to life after a decade of false starts and legal battles. A few weeks ago, the Bloomfield Planning Board unanimously approved the developer's application, a decision that clears the way for construction to start. The decision will be formalized tomorrow night. But Carrie Heller, the developer who created the Panera Shopping Center in Montclair and the train station redevelopment in South Orange, says the traffic plan is seriously flawed and will lead to major congestion that will undercut the project's success. Heller is also a property owner in downtown Bloomfield who has a stake in the outcome. I met him at Anthony's Cheesecake on Friday morning and asked him to show me why he thinks the traffic plan is flawed.
So the train station is here at the bottom. This is Lackawanna. You're coming into the intersection of Lackawanna and Washington. What they're doing here is creating an offset intersection. That you make a right, to make a left on the Ferran Street. It's a jog. It's noted as an offset or a jog intersection, whereas what should happen here is a roundabout to make 4 equal corners. This new curve is going to come out almost into this area, right in here.
Okay.
So two-way traffic now is going to be pushed into this direction. Beyond the sign, beyond the tree will go out. The new intersection will go almost to the crosswalk. If you see on Washington Street there, the new intersection of Lackawanna and Washington will be pushed all the way back into there, negating the possibility of putting in a roundabout or an improved intersection.
Could they do the roundabout? Could they take your roundabout plan and do it and keep the rest of the redevelopment? Is it possible?
The redevelopment can happen. The reason the roundabout right now is not happening is the developer needs, I guess by his economics, needs to push out further out of the block to get more apartments, more retail. If the project was scaled back to stay within the curb line, and he might lose a few apartments on each floor, absolutely it can be done. It's being done for sheer economic reasons, not for good planning reasons. When you look down the street here at Lackawanna right now, it looks like a very wide street, but what's happening here on the left-hand side, this curb line is pushing out 15 feet from the curb into the street.
What's 15 feet, basically?
2 car widths.
2 car widths. Okay.
So the street's going to be narrowed from 45 feet to 30 feet wide.
Yeah, this is now going to be a parking deck, and this is the whole redevelopment. This is where it's a big triangle.
This is block 228.
And here's another gutted space. That was what, like the cheap furniture store or something?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And we're in the municipal parking lot. That will be no longer municipal parking lot. It will be the parking structure. We're right across the street from the train station. So this is the parking deck.
Okay.
So we'll go over onto Lackawanna, which where we are right now. You see the angled parking spaces, Debbie?
Right.
This is going to be the new curb line, basically where this curb is here. So the narrowness of the street is from where you're looking at this green car, SUV, to this curb line. So you're going to have a very narrow passing between 2 vehicles. So anything, we're right now in the driveway for the new parking structure. Any vehicles, any stacking of vehicles, anybody looking to come into the deck, any trucks coming in, coming out, this whole street of Lackawanna is going to come to a standstill.
And anybody trying to parallel park, and it's right double wide because they're parallel parking or double parking for any reason, right? Or what about a UPS truck?
Well, you're right on target. We're in South Orange, and we're very much a part of the redevelopment there. South Orange narrowed the streets from 2 lanes to 1 lane to stop fast traffic and make it more pedestrian-oriented. They actually made the sidewalks probably too large. And the streets too narrow that there is not a place for UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, double parking, jump out to get a movie, pick up something. This street is even going to be more narrow. There literally, as you just pointed out, whether you're parallel parking and on that side of the street, there'll be no parking on this side of the street. There'll be nowhere for any vehicles to go. There's no common space.
Just for bearing, Senoritas is to the left?
Senoritas is to the left. This is Glenwood. We're heading toward Conger. The streets changed from Conger to Lackawanna to Ferran. They probably all should have the same name. It really is one continuation of the street.
This is the Glen Ridge shortcut to the Garden State Parkway. This is how we go.
If it stays as a shortcut, you can see on the other side of the intersection there's a left-hand turn lane, a straight lane, and a right-hand turn lane. This intersection does not have a green arrow, extended green arrow, so when this light does turn, if there's a vehicle oncoming looking to make a left turn to go under the railroad tracks to go Glenwood toward East Orange, this whole intersection where we're parked right now in a parking space, if this first car were making a left, if the first car the other direction were making a left, everything's going to come to a standstill also here on Lackawanna.
So people won't be able to get out of the parking deck.
Parking deck or out of Lackawanna, or anyone who's living in the neighborhoods of Bloomfield or Glen Ridge are not going to be able to pass through underneath the railroad tracks on Washington or Glenwood to get out to Bloomfield Avenue. Glenwood's not going to be affected. The curb lines, nothing is going to be affected here. They're going to stay within their borders.
So street parking will still be here. I bet you everybody's going to be trying to get a metered space here instead of having to go into the deck.
Correct. All these meters will remain both sides of the street. No retailers, shoppers don't want to park in a garage. More apt to use the ground level, though this is still going to be a very awkward and very expensive ground level parking solution. You'll see there's a whole bunch of cars still parked here right now as they're waiting to redevelop. Note here at this intersection, no left-hand turn, no turn on red. You can't turn onto Washington Street. So where we would like to go right now is left on Washington Street.
Because Washington Street, you'll have to turn left here, but you can't.
But you can't. There's
Okay.
talk about changing that and taking this light out, but these are all things that they haven't gotten approved from the county.
Okay.
So we're going to make the left here, and hopefully a police officer is not going to bother us. We've got a whole bunch of cars behind us.
But if you were being legal, if you were, what would you do? Let's say you wanted to dodge the deck and you wanted to park on the street and there were no spaces, and you didn't want to make a left-hand turn because you weren't supposed to. What would you do then? Would you
cross Broad Street is the only thing you can do here, or make a right turn on Bloomfield Avenue East. Here's by example. Here's a truck that will be permitted. This is a box truck.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so this street's even going to get more narrow, though it's going to be one direction. So the cars parked on the left-hand side won't be allowed anymore.
Okay.
But where those cars are parked, the curb is going to be pushed out to those cars.
Right.
So there's going to be one way this direction. We can go around this truck very carefully.
But if you were another truck, you wouldn't be able to get around it.
No.
Right?
Traffic will stop.
Right.
Traffic will absolutely stop. This driveway to our left will be an access into the parking deck. These stores, only access to these stores is from the road. You know, for deliveries or pickups.
You're going to be able to get into the parking deck from here? There's going to
there'll be
another entrance.
For cars, they say it's going to be trucks. The trucks, as you just saw as we passed down the street, nothing's turning into these narrow little, nor on Lackawanna. They say so. We've proven by traffic engineer that those turning radiuses will not be possible.
If you were Anthony's Cheesecake, how would you feel, or the yoga place, how would you feel about this traffic plan? Will it affect their businesses?
I think the increase in traffic flow as a whole may benefit them. I think they're going to end up being aggravated that they're not going to get the parking. Anyone coming to do a pickup for the cheesecake, there's not going to be any easy place to do that. This parking is going to be taken up very, very quickly by... there's a shared parking arrangement, by the way. There's not enough retail parking, there's not enough residential parking. It's a shared parking arrangement. What will happen is apartment people, some will leave in the morning, and there's a ratio that says some number of cars will leave, and the retailers will come in and fill. It's a purely theoretical model, but for these stores on the right-hand side of Washington Street, parking is going to be severely restricted. All the spaces on the left will be gone. There will be some parking spaces left here on the right, though I do question whether they'll even remain because of the traffic flow that's going to be necessary on this street and the turning radiuses into the deck. These parking spaces may disappear as well.
Wow. Okay.
Let's continue on. The intersection we're approaching is Lackawanna and Washington again. Basically works now because there's not a lot of flow. There's not a lot of cars. There's a couple of cars that come here and there, but if this was a busy intersection, it would be a very awkward turn left, turn right, because as you see, it's not four equal corners. What they're doing here is making a very large offset, which is going to make it, by everybody's, I think, acknowledgement at the meeting, going to be very, very awkward, and the thought is that they'll fix it at some later date, but there's no guarantee of that, and the thought of fixing it at some later date is the big lot here on block 225 that is the town's lot. They can cut that up, they can chew that out, spit it out any way they want, and try to fix the mess that they're creating as part of this project. And it's not necessary. It's being done for monetary reasons, that this developer needs more mass. So they're pushing out into the streets and going to sacrifice traffic flow to all these buildings to the right. This project and other projects in this area have the potential to do great things for the town of Bloomfield. One small project, and keep in mind we have the Wattessing area as well. You have enormous amounts of land and potential projects there. This needs to be done in the right way to benefit everyone, not just for this particular piece of property.